I'm recording the screen. Yeah. So we got to this yesterday. There's a point that my third period class got to that I want to get you guys to. That's not very far away. There's a couple of discussion points that come up with the Supreme Court justices. That is modern issues going on right now with those justices. So we'll get through that, and then whenever we're done, we're done. I just want to have this on Moodle so people who missed can go back and watch or listen or however they want to do that. So we had gotten through all of those yesterday. The next one that we need to get to is this one right here. Right. So there was a big debate, and this is still is a debate at the state level too. We have the same issues at the local level: weak mayor, strong mayor. I believe Medina. Is anybody a Medina resident? Okay. Do you guys know by any chance, God bless you, if your mayor and your fire chief and your police chief are all elected separately? Okay. So if that's the situation, that's a weak mayor, meaning the mayor is one of 7 or 8 people that are voted into office. Or you have a strong mayor. Go for it. God bless you. Strong mayor, which is Cleveland's a strong mayor. Brunswick, I believe, is a strong mayor, where the mayor appoints those people to their positions. Right? So you have a variation. But this is the same discussion they had at the federal level, was how powerful do we want the presidency? And we chose, as a country, to go with a strong executive branch, a lot more power. What's happened, however, and you guys are seeing this specifically in my lifetime and your lifetime, is the executive branch has kind of taken that and has anyone ever heard the phrase "absolute power corrupts absolutely"?
Yeah.
So we're not corrupt yet, but we're getting to the point where it's obscene amount of power is now in the executive branch, and the Congress has things that they control, but the executive branch is so large now. I think we're looking at 19 million people work in the executive branch alone. So of the 350 million people in the United States of America, 19 million of those people work in the executive branch section in some way, shape, or form, the different agencies, which I'll show you guys from the website. And that's who in here remembers the phrase from President Trump when he was talking about draining the swamp? That was one of his lines. The same thing when Ronald Reagan took office, he was trying to get rid of all of the bureaucracy or all these extra people. So let's say that I hired these 3 to run my campaign for mayor or for governor of Ohio. So that was my 3 people. And then these 3 people went out and hired 10 people each. Right. So now I'm looking at 33 people being hired. And then those 30 people hired 2 people each to help them out. You see how it expands and gets bigger and bigger. That's what we call a bureaucracy. Right. So when we look at the president, we vote for the president. But everyone that works at the White House, the press secretary and all those people, those are bureaucracy because they hire on a staff, and that staff may hire on a couple assistants and all the interns and you name it. And that's where we get to that 19 million. It's just absolutely massive. Yeah.
Why don't we just cut out a few people from the branch?
It would be great. I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Why don't we just?
Well, there was a big discussion, and this has been going on for many years. Is in Ohio, we have the Department of Education in Ohio, and the federal government has a Secretary of Education. So why does the federal government have a Secretary of Education? Can't the states deal with it? That's been a big debate of just getting rid of that part of the federal government. We don't need it. The states have it under control. And if you look at even our testing scores, we're compared by state by state by state. We're not compared at the federal level. It's almost all state. Which one's the best state? Nebraska is better than Ohio, and Ohio is better at this than Iowa, right? So, but you're right. I personally agree with you. But then there's going to be another group that's going to say, no, we need the federal oversight to make sure that all of the states are doing what they think they should be doing.
Wasn't there a point in time where there was just the president?
It was right when Washington took office.
Yep.
Yeah, that was it. That was the last time it was just the president when Washington took his position. And then he and I took it down because I'm going to hang it someplace else. But Hamilton, the first 2 secretaries he hired was Hamilton and Jefferson. Jefferson was the Secretary of State, and Hamilton was the Secretary of Treasury, because Washington needed to deal with the big picture stuff. he didn't know finances, so he brought someone in that knew finances. That was Hamilton. And then Secretary of State is kind of the guy that would work with other countries. And Jefferson had gone to France and been around the world, so he knew those people. So he was like, okay, I'll have Jefferson do that. So you run into situations where the president divvies up the jobs. But now we're looking at 18. We have 18 different branches or 18 different cabinet positions. Not to mention the administrative. I'll show it to you guys. It's actually kind of disgusting. I'm gonna pull it up and I'll put it up on the board for you after you guys.
Why don't we just restart?
Well, this is where, and it's not going to happen, a restart, but this is where you're starting to hear people talk about Jefferson and the Declaration of Independence. Like in the Declaration, it says it is up to us as the people sometimes to not overturn the government, but to do something to stop what's going on.
I think we've gotten to the point where we can't do something to the government.
And that's the issue that we're running into. Is it's so big now that we're struggling to find. So I want to find one.
Yeah, we just filled our own militia.
No, your foot isn't necessary. Look, 8 foot is way out and not even hard area.
I'm sorry.
Jeez,
You're the one.
Okay, so I was talking about government agencies and the executive branch getting powerful. So I pulled this up. These are the agencies. This website is bureaucracy. Keeping in mind, none of these people were elected. So this is all of the things that we've created as agencies and government-run facilities in the United States, starting with A. So here's all of our A's. Yeah. Yeah, there's a TV station apparently that's a government. Amtrak is government run.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
What is it?
Amtrak train. That's a federally run program. Arctic Research Commission. Arthritis, Musculoskeletal, and Skin Disease National Institute of. That's a government-funded, government-run agency.
So all this counts as executive.
These are all government agencies and elected officials. Bankruptcy courts, that's fine. Botanical Garden, Bureau of Indian Affairs, Bureau of Justice Statistics, Bureau of Prisons, Bureau of Reclamation, Bureau of Fiscal Policy, Bureau of Transportation Statistics. And this just keeps on going and going and going. Capitol Police, Census Bureau, Central Command, Chief Acquisition Office, Court of Appeals, Coast Guard, Commission on International Religious Freedom. We have a Commission on International Religious Freedom. Why do we have that? Why don't we just focus on national religious freedom? Right. The other part of that was, let me see if I can go back to this. See if I pull up the White House. White House had their administration stuff on there. Control H. Executive Office of the President. I think, is this it? Yeah. Yeah. So these are the offices of the president that are not elected. These are there's 16 agencies at the White House that he gets to operate and run.
Gender Policy Council.
Yeah. All right. So now what happens is a lot of these line up with some of the cabinet positions. So, and this actually goes back to President Obama did this, and it wasn't the greatest choice of words. So we had the Department of Homeland Security, and then President Obama created the office of, or the cabinet position. I'm sorry, not cabinet position, a administrative czar of Homeland Security. So the Homeland Security, those people are appointed by. He appoints them and the Congress approves them, says yes or no, they can run it. And then President Obama created another agency that worked directly for him, specifically that didn't have to answer to Congress, that suggested things to the Department of Homeland Security. And then we have Department of Agriculture. And then he created another position called the Czar of Agriculture that worked directly for Obama, and Obama would then tell them what to do, and then they would go to the Department of Agriculture and tell the Department of Agriculture what to do. So it became this really, and that's where we are now. We have this massively huge. I know it's kind of a caricature, but think of a body with this massive head that's kind of like controlling the body and like making it wobble around. It's kind of where we've gotten to the point where this executive branch is so powerful, so big, it's almost impossible to get rid of it now. And that's the situation we're running into. Yes, sir.
What was that gender one? I'm confused on like what
Gender studies. Is that what was the name of it?
I don't know what.
Yeah. Like right now, I mean, if we're looking at the issues that we're dealing with in regards to
Is that like women in the workplace?
Oh yeah, anything like we have the what's the thing we have here at school for people that are So it's kind of like that at the federal level.
I guess
to kind of look at some research and make sure that all the people are taken care of and equal in pay and equal in representation.
That makes sense.
Right. So one of the things that comes up with this, and actually I like this quote from Hamilton: "Laws are a dead letter without courts to expound and define their true meaning and operation." Because if I put a law out there, well, there's no one for us to argue that law because there's no court system. How do we deal with it? Like one of our last ditch efforts as a person in the country is to say, well, I'm going to sue that person. I'm taking him to court. That's not fair. But if we have no courts, who do we go to? Like, some things you guys struggle with here at the Career Center, right? If you have complaints about something and you go to the principal typically defaults to believing the teacher. Sometimes you feel like you're in a corner, you don't know exactly what to do. So you find someone else so you go to your parent, which is fine, right? That's appropriate. And the parent comes in, but there has to be an outlet for us to deal with the problem. If we don't have that, then we're stuck. And we end up becoming a dictatorship or a tyranny. So Hamilton was dead on when he said this, that the laws have to be interpreted. We have to have a court system. Right? Now, this is the most current Supreme Court. So this is our current Supreme Court, and I'm going to draw a couple of things on. You guys don't have to worry about this. When we do the federal branch, when we do the Supreme Court judicial branch, I have these people's pictures and names. We'll go in more detail because it's supposed to influence us. I'm sorry, rephrase. It's supposed to influence how they're interpreting the laws or looking at the laws. At least that's what we think. However, in the past 2 or 3 years, some of their votes or their decisions of the Supreme Court have kind of thrown people for a loop. Going, well, wait a second, we thought you were going to vote this way, but you voted a different way. Regardless, we'll come back to that in a second. So I'm going to put up here the president that appointed them to their office, and then they were approved. So this was a George W. Bush. This is another George W. Bush. This was a Bill Clinton.
Isn't George W. Bush dead?
That's George. Thank you for bringing it. George H.W. Bush. The father is dead. And he appointed Clarence Thomas way back in 91. This is another. Oh, wait, no, that's not Bill Clinton. That's the only Bill Clinton left. This is a Barack Obama. This is also a Barack Obama. And this is a Donald Trump. Donald Trump. Donald Trump. And this is the lady that took over for Ruth Bader Ginsburg right at the end of his, right before the election. I think it was October of 2020 was when she got appointed to that position.
How do you get to pick how many you appoint?
It depends on openings. I'll bring this up since you brought it. I'll go on to that tangent with you right here. This guy right here, Anthony Kennedy, was a Bill Clinton appointee. You can look at him. He's on the verge of retiring. He's not sick. He's not going to die. He's not infirmed anyway. But there's a push by the Democrats to have him resign right now, get his pension, live his life, enjoy, go on the speech circuit and have fun, so that they can appoint a younger person under President Biden that will be there for the rest of their life. Because these people are on for life. So that he can go, one of the Supreme Court justices that he took over for, Antonin Scalia, passed away in his bed. He went on a golf outing with friends and he died out of natural causes. So he was appointed to take his place. So so you can live your whole life and die in office, or you can resign and enjoy, and then they'll replace you with someone. Speaking of that, this person right here, it has nothing to do with your age. This is your Chief Justice. and he's John Roberts. I'm not going to quiz you on it right now. This is your Chief Justice. So if he resigns or he passes away, whoever gets that position becomes the next Chief Justice. It's not based off of age or experience. It's just that person gets that position. Yeah.
Now, if say the Chief Justice were to die, could one of the other ones switch positions, or they're stuck in their?
They're stuck. Yeah. So whoever takes that spot becomes the Chief Justice.
It's a new person.
New person. Yeah. Now, this is the debate that's going on. This is where it's modern issues right now. One of the discussions during the campaign, they kept on asking Kamala Harris and Joe Biden was, are you planning on stacking the courts? Because keep in mind, this is, we haven't gotten to this yet, the Congress can add seats to the Supreme Court. They're allowed to. Matter of fact, I think the largest the court ever has been was 11. We had 11 justices at one point. What's that?
That court?
Yes. They could add on to this, or they could take away. They could make it. They could actually take away a seat if they really wanted to. So that was actually in the debates, and they kept on. If you go back and watch the debates, Biden and Harris both kind of ignored it, and they didn't really answer it. They kind of hedged their answers, but now there's a discussion in Congress under the Democratic rule to add another one. Let's see if I can do this. 2, 3 more seats. And they want to do this so that Joe Biden. Right? So now, a Supreme Court justice or a federal judge or a judge in general is not supposed to be political. They're supposed to be apolitical. They're supposed to look at the law. We'll get to more details later on. But right now, if you're willing to bet or willing to guess, George W. Bush appointee, George H.W. Bush appointee, George W. Bush appointee, Donald Trump appointment, Donald Trump appointment, Donald Trump appointment. Will they be a little more conservative in their views of the Constitution, or will they be more liberal? Maybe a little more conservative. So right now, in the numbers, sheer numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to 3, every single time something comes up, even if it votes down those borders, those lines, the conservative justices will win. So the Democrats are nervous about this. So they're talking about adding seats, packing the court. So this is a Democrat appointment. The Democrat 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now it's an even 6 to 6.
Yeah,
so
but doesn't
now,
that mean that it would always like even out?
potentially.
I thought you need like an odd number.
That was the discussion. So now they're talking about either doing 2, but would that give them the majority? No. So they would have to go to 4. All right. So if they do 3, they might be able to get some conservatives that are opposed to packing the courts and now say, okay, maybe, because now we could have a split. What's been happening though, like there was one that came out last year, a Supreme Court ruling, where this guy, it's not Gorsuch, it's confused with the K. Why am I drawing a blank all of a sudden? He was, when he even went through the nomination process, everyone was like, you're going to be super conservative, you're going to rule this way, you're never going to find in favor of LGBTQ communities, you're going to be anti pro-gun, you're just that kind of guy. And that was why he had such a big, huge backlash. Well, there was a new case about DACA, which is or not DACA, Family Leave Act, adding LGBTQ community to it. And everyone was like, oh, well, this guy's going to be against it. So is this guy. So is this guy. So is she. So is he. And he'll be against it as well. Well, no. He ended up being for it. He was for it. She was for it. She was for it. And Chief Justice was for it. So all of a sudden you have 1, 2, 4, 5 to 4. So the justices who you thought were going to vote conservatively voted liberally. So even though we were electing them or putting them in those positions, you think one thing, but then all of a sudden you're coming out with different results. Right? So keeping in mind this, you might see an adjustment in this in the next couple of years. Right? And then this guy right here, they want him to resign so that they can replace him under Biden and have a younger person. I think I already said that. Sorry. So that is that.
Now, how do you add more? Does he just get to say he wants to add more?
Congress does. Congress can add and replace. It's one of the powers given to Congress. They can add the House and the Senate. Yeah. Now, if you think that we have enough government agencies and government institutions, you're right. We have 870 federal judges in the federal courts. We haven't even talked about state courts. We haven't talked about local courts. We haven't talked about county courts. We haven't talked about any of those. So at the federal level, there's 870 judges. The national judiciary is 100 of those. Courts gets a big chunk of those 870. Then you have your 50 state judiciaries, which is not counted in that 870. Most court cases we hear are at the state level. Like typically gets the Ohio Supreme Court. That's like the highest. Well, we in our lifetime will probably end up getting if you do go to court. It's like what was it? I think even the Roe v. Wade podcast I listened to on Monday with you guys. That portion of it, they talked about the thousands and thousands of cases that try to get to the federal level, and only a handful will make it through. Like right now, the Supreme Court's hearing 3 cases. That's it. 3 cases. That's going to take them all the way to the end of the year, all the way up probably through April. And then in April, they'll start to write up their decisions, and and I think it's in June, late May, early June, they'll report them to everyone. And then the rest of the summer, everyone's going to be like, I can't believe they voted this way.
Why do they take so long?
Part of it is they have to write up. If you ever look at their opinions, some of their opinions are 10, 15, 20 pages long, each judge. And then they put it all together in one big. So let's say all of you guys are on the court. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You guys on your court. You guys all have to have your own opinions written. You guys are the ones that won. So Hannah's the newest, so we'll have Hannah write the opinion for the group, but then you guys are all going to want to have a little say. So you'll have a 20-pager, you'll have a 5-page, 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 5-page. You guys are also going to write your opinions, dissenting opinion, and you're in charge of writing the dissenting opinion for all 3 of them. So you'll have a 20-pager, and you'll have a 5-page, 5-page opinion to throw out there. And then we, and the rest of the class who's out here because they're out working on this opinion, are finding research and finding court cases and finding documents that will support our evidence.
How do you go to the, how do you bring
It's
something to the...
most of it's an appeal. So like Roe v. Wade started at the state level and then went, because it was a constitutional issue, that then automatically goes to a federal court and then it can appeal itself up into the Supreme Court. So it's a process. Like those court cases that are getting to the Supreme Court this year have probably been in the system for the last 3 or 4 years, moving their way up. Right. This will be the last one, right? But what's the next thing that's on here?
Basic principles.
Yep, we're going to stop at basic principles. So just the last thing right here. And then what happened was the courts decided, well, we don't want to deal with everything. Let's make specific courts dealing with specific issues. Let's make more government. So these are all under the Congress. Congress created these. Court of Appeals for Armed Forces, Appeals for Veteran Claims, Federal Claims, Tax Courts, Terrorist Courts, and then the courts in District of Columbia are all federally mandated. Because again, District of Columbia isn't its own state, it's the District of Columbia, run by the federal government. All right. And that is that for today.